I'm Max Sterling, welcome to LarpMix. A while back I had this idea while I was playing a Fallout Airsoft LARP that I'd like to have a radio, maybe like built into my gun. And you know, I did some thinking about it. I thought, wow, why couldn't you just stick one in the stock, because there's a lot of empty space back there. So I did a little bit of research online and I found out that someone already did try this. In 1955, Winchester made a .308 rifle that actually had a transistor radio in the stock, because it was the first year that they were out. And they only made this one prototype and nobody basically bought it because who the hell wants to give away their position, or I guess listen to the radio while they're hunting, or whatever you may be doing. However, when you're talking about the world of Fallout, where you're running around and you know you may have the background music playing and stuff, I think that for that type of game style, having a transistor radio in the stock would just be incredible. Now, I happened to find this old little radio at a yard sale, and I think it was like 10 cents or maybe free. So I grabbed it because it's very small. And then I have a Airsoft AK here, and although this isn't life size, it's pretty close to. We just have to figure out how to stick this into here, and then when I'm running around my Fallout Airsoft LARP, I can have the tunes jamming or radio static, or you know, whatever it is. But I think that, you know, it'll add a little bit to that atmosphere. Now, ideally, I think you would add an MP3 player or something along those lines, so then you could have a playlist made up ahead of time. You could insert your own static. You could, you know, apply an overlay or an effect to the music so that it sounded distant or staticky or something. But really, I almost want this just to be in the stock, so sometimes when we take our breaks between scenes, or we're, you know, eating or something, I can try to turn this on, see if I can find anything, you know, or even just scroll through the static endlessly and not find anything. I'm not sure I'm going to put an antenna on it, so that way when I turn it on, it really doesn't work that great, but, you know. So the first step is finding a little radio that actually does turn on, and this one does. So let's go ahead and we'll dismantle the stock on this, which should be pretty easy because this is a separate piece and it's just a couple screws. The battery pack does go in here, so I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with that. And then we'll dismantle this and see about putting it all together. And this should work on Nerf guns also, but for a Nerf gun, you probably need a much smaller speaker, an MP3 player, so that's something you would probably have to make up on your own, because Nerf blasters don't give us a lot of space inside the actual blaster to do stuff like this. So let's go ahead and get started and see if we can make this work out. So I've run into a snag. So with this large of a battery pack, I just don't see this fitting in here. If it was just a little bit bigger, or this radio was a little bit smaller, it would work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the radio and I'm just going to set it aside. This will be something I'll use in another project, but this is just not going to work, unfortunately. But the internals are still good, so maybe they can go into another you know, weapon or something, but this is just going to be too darn big. I need to find a smaller radio. So let me see what I can go scavenge real quick. Okay, so I found a smaller radio. Now, I didn't really want to use this one because I'd already sort of genred it up a little bit and was really liking it. But, you know, I got to press on with this project, so this one's going to have to go. And here's the finished product. You can see that it remains largely stock, except for these two mystery dials on the back and this port in the top. And I think it came out, you know, pretty cool. So it's just got these two dials that look like they're supposed to be there, and you know, those are obviously our on-off volume and our frequency. Now, I left it on when I put it back together, but inside, if you saw in the fast forward part, this is still open, so you can reach in there with like a long screwdriver and you can flick it on and off or hit the AM FM switch. It's a little bit difficult to do, but I left it that way to keep this clean on the outside, and also I didn't want you to have to be an electrical engineer to make this project and to try to reroute the switches and all that stuff. It's too much work. This anybody can make if they have a drill and some hot glue. Anything more involved than this, you know, it really starts to take some skill, and then it starts costing money. This basically for me was almost free. This I got at that yard sale haul. If you watch that video, I'll include a card for that. And as far as the radio, it's something that I just found anyways. Now I really wish I could have used that original radio so I had the speaker in the stock, but that didn't work. This stock was just too small. This is a project that I will revisit, and I will make one with that speaker in the stock. But that might be a video for a while from now. As far as how this worked, this did not have a speaker. It is a headphone only radio, which is kind of why it's so small. But we have this port in the top now where we can just jack into it. So let me go ahead here and get my Vault-Tec blue headphones. I'm going to stick those in, and then we hot glued this port in, so we just go ahead and plug that in, and you can scan the dial. Now you guys won't be able to hear it anyways, it's probably like copyrighted music anyhow, but it's mostly static, and the few things that come in, because I left it on AM, is mostly talk radio. But if you were to find a preset and preset your radio dial to like an oldies station, then you would always have sort of that oldies music coming through here, stuff from the 50s. And then you know, I think it's just pretty cool to have this wire here, and just imagine just, you know, holding this and just rocking and rolling while you're rocking and rolling. I think that that's a pretty cool thing to have. So I think I might be more of a fan of the headphones because it won't give away your position, it won't spook animals, and you know, it's not going to mess with other people's immersions that might not want to hear the music. Now the Fallout game I play is a pretty small group, so I don't think anyone would be upset if I had the speaker in here, especially with this slung over your back, playing music just sort of while you're walking to destinations, or you're in between scenes, or while you're eating or something. I think that that'd be really cool to have the speaker. And like I said, I'm going to make one of those also. But this, you know, if you're going to a game with a lot of people, it doesn't interfere with anyone else's immersion, and it can just really add a new depth and dimension to your immersion. I talked earlier about if you put an MP3 player in here, which I think would be ideal, because then you can preload the music. You can have you know, station IDs. You can have little pre-made you know, radio broadcast and stuff built into it to add to your own immersion. But if you do one that's a transistor radio, if you remember my video from way back about how to make the FM transmitter radio, then you could use something like that along with this, and you could actually receive information reports from that, as long as you were close enough to the source. If you've never seen that video, I suggest checking out, because that's a very cool build. And this, you know, we took the idea, I mean, well, I had the idea initially just in my head, and then I did some research and found out that Winchester, back in 1955, actually did make that Model 70 .308 rifle, but they only made one, and it was a prototype. They took it to all these shows, and nobody liked it, and nobody bought them, because they didn't think it was, you know, something that they wanted to have. I think as a hunter or something in the 50s, I probably would have bought it, because just walking to and from destinations, it would have been cool to have that transistor radio. But I think sitting in the tree, trying not to scare animals and stuff, if they would have had headphones for that model, they might have sold a couple, or it might have made it to production. But you know, who knows? But what I do know is if you make this, you will be the only person at your game that has this. I try to make stuff on my channel that other people don't make, that you've never seen before, and is still easy enough for anybody to produce. So if you play an Airsoft game, this is something very cool, especially if it's a Fallout era type of thing. You can add this in and just really give yourself some new depth. Like I said, I think you can fit this in a Nerf gun, but you're probably going to have to go the MP3 player route for that because they're so much smaller, and you may have to just, you know, make a little trap door, or you may just have to turn on and leave it in there all the time because it's going to be difficult to get to the on and off switch is in a Nerf weapon. At least with this, I can just pull this front of the stock off with 4 screws, and it's not a big deal. Nerf blasters, you usually have to take out like, you know, a dozen screws, so that's going to get annoying. But if you decide to make one of these, I want to know about it. Show me some pictures on social media, either Instagram, Twitter, me stuff, Facebook, or if you do a video, be sure to let me know where that's located at so I can check it out. I'd love to see your take on this. Now, if you have any comments on anything I could have done differently or better, or if you have some idea of maybe where to get small radios or something that would help other people trying to build this, please comment below. And of course, share this video with everyone that you know that LARPs, especially if you do Airsoft type stuff or Fallout or you know, Post-Apocalyptic type things. Let them know that I'm here making this really cool content for you weekly, and that it's stuff that you're not going to get anywhere else. And of course, subscribe if you're not already, and just like I said, let everyone know about my channel because its growth really depends on you guys, and I appreciate you watching. And until next time, adventure on. Oh, rock and roll time.